Why don't we start with a little presentation of yourself? Where are you and where are you talking with me just now?
Brilliant. So, hello, Obehi. Hello, listeners and viewers. My name is Annecha Smart, and I am joining you all today from the United Kingdom, from England. And yes, today we'll talk a little bit about the fact that I'm a transformation coach.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi Ewanfo, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started into this episode.
All right, now, Annecha, let's start with you. As we read on that, everyone has a story. So we're actually trying to hook up to you as a person rather than what you do. Of course, that is also important, but we pay attention to who you are. That is more important for us. So let's start with you. Little Annecha, where were you born? So give us a little background about that.
Well, I won't give you the specifics, otherwise you'll date me.
Oh, don't worry.
Date meaning determine my age, but I was born in the late 1970s. And the year I was born, I'm pretty proud of, because when you check history, there have been so many dynamic things that have happened within that particular year. I feel really special to have been born then. I'm a January born. I'm a January born individual as well. So I was top of that year, which is just fantastic. But yes, I'm from Jamaica originally. I grew up in Jamaica, my island home. Very proud to be Jamaican. That's the place where you get, by nature of just being Jamaican, you become tenacious. So yes, that is my heritage in terms of where I'm from.
So your parents are from Jamaica and you were born also in Jamaica, right?
That's right.
Okay, so tell me about, okay, now let's first of all hang on in Jamaica a little bit because that is there are some personality from Jamaica that are of high importance to us. You can talk of Bob Marley, and when you look at Pan-Africanism, then we're going to be talking about Marcus Garvey. So Jamaica, that little island, have given birth to a giant of people that make Africa very proud. So for somebody who doesn't even have a good glimpse of Jamaica, what would you tell us in few words about Jamaica?
Wow. Well, like I said before, the land of tenacity. There's just something about the island that drives the people to be their best at all times. Yes, like every country, there are issues, but the general population, the ordinary man, is constantly striving to be his best, working to be his best, figuring out how to do this game called life and how to excel. So one of the things, it's the place where you learn to be determined and tenacious. Second of all, it's the land of love. It's genuine love, honestly. People do care about each other. Like I say, with every country, there are ups and downs. But when I grew up in Jamaica, it was the village that raised the child. It was my neighbors, my mom's friends, or family friends and community members who were looking out for us as children, ensuring that we grew up in ways where with ideologies of understanding, we were important. We were the backbone coming of the nation. We were going to be the ones to influence where things would go. And they just really pump into us that repeated message of value and worth. It came through sports. It came through the performing arts. It came through the kinds of teachers we had in school. It came through competitions of all different sorts that just prepared us to be strong individuals and strong young people. So it's that genuine love that you can expect. And if we're going to go to the holiday side, it is the place to visit for a holiday. Absolutely beautiful, exciting things to do, brilliant white sandy beaches. It's just a lovely place to be. It really is.
Thank you so much for that, Annecha. Now, like I was saying before, here in the diaspora, we have a lot of regard for some individual. Just to name one, Marcus Garvey, because of his influence in the African diaspora community. And now in Jamaica, is it the same way that you guys see Marcus Garvey, or is it more there or less? I mean, because me personally, I didn't know much about Marcus Garvey until I became a diaspora in that I left Nigeria and I come to Europe. And then I come to see the value of this individual, the kind of a message that he have left down for us. So for as far as we are concerned as African diaspora, he is a giant that we must reckon with. We must listen to his message. So for the Jamaican, his brothers and sisters closer now, what kind of influence does he leave with you?
Listen, Marcus Garvey plays a massive role in the birth and our nation and our country. And I'm glad to hear that from your end, he is revered and respected, and you listen to his speeches and people feel empowered. It's the same way in Jamaica. But we have a lot of icons that we look up to, a number of different people who have shaped the nation, who have shaped the direction of our country. So yes, there is the Marcus Garvey, there are all the other 7 national heroes and heroine, Nanny of the Maroons included. We have even more recent people like in sport, Usain Bolt. We have our icon within poetry, Louise Bennett. All of them combined influence the mindset, influence the thinking of individuals growing up in the country. We study them in school. We look at their speeches. We look at the things that they offer. We are influenced by the poetry that is written. It depends. It all relates to whichever sector that they belong to. So like I said, it can be poetry, it can be on the world stage in terms of sports, it can be freedom fighters like Marcus Garvey, it can be independents, whatever category they form in. The country is filled with them. We have a lot of them that we can refer to as role models. Yes, and they all influence where we go, where we are now as a people.
That is really important. We must know where we are coming from, and we must listen to the message of our hero, those who have been there before us. All right, now let's look at us. Let's look at you. You came to the United Kingdom. Tell us about that journey, Destination Europe.
When you're growing up in the Caribbean, sometimes, it depends on what is happening in your world. We have this perception that England, for example, is the motherland. Obviously, we're part of the Commonwealth, and we have a Governor General who reports to the Queen. He's kind of basically head of state and so on. And so we look to the fact that, okay, we've got lots of ancestors who have traveled over to England in particular, to Europe. They have fought in the different wars, they have contributed, and we're part of the Commonwealth. So sometimes as you grow up, depending on your, what families you're in, you're looking forward to visiting the UK, probably settling there for a while and seeing how you can experience life on a different side of the planet. So when I started my family, pretty early days, that was one of the things that we discussed together as a family. We wanted the opportunity to be world travelers. And it is something that we're gradually having the opportunity to say at this stage in our lives, a couple of years on, 15 or so years on, we are indeed world travelers. So we emigrated to the United Kingdom. My husband, who is a teacher myself, I was a teacher and guidance counselor at that time. We started looking around to see what were the opportunities in the UK. And there was a recruitment process going on. We learned about it through the newspapers. We went to the interviews. We were successful and we secured jobs as teachers in the UK. So we moved over to explore a new place to be, a new way of living, to see what does England in itself have to offer to a young family coming from the Caribbean.
When you were moving to Europe, And when you got to, you had a certain vision, a certain view, certain imagination of what Europe appear, or what Europe should be. When you eventually come in and you are in the UK, was that the kind of picture you saw, or was it actually different from what you were thinking that it could be?
Oh, wow. It was different. Just the overall landscape and how things looked. When you're coming from the Caribbean, you're used to tropical environments, lots of greenery and trees, and the temperatures are just cool. I grew up next to the beach in Portland. So therefore, there's just this beautiful scenery every day, walking to school and so on. But you get to the UK, and we actually arrived in December. It was bitterly cold, beyond what we really could imagine. And just the setup of how things were in terms of traveling, even from the airport to where we were going to live, just your housing structure, everything was just so close. It felt close. All the houses were kind of connected together. It was just different. It really was different. With time, we kind of explored and we found a foresty area in which we then settled and lived. And it was more feeling a little bit more like Jamaica, not in terms of the temperature, but definitely in terms of how things looked. So we had a lot of greenery around us. We could then walk to the park. We could walk to the meadows. We could just, enjoy nature a little bit more naturally and easily and outside your back door at your fingertips. But yeah, that was the first kind of difference that hit you. Beyond that, settling into school and then working in the education system here, a completely different kettle of fish.
Yeah, I can imagine that, because that story can take us to the rabbit hole. Anyway, but that is interesting. That is interesting, even in itself, no? Because coming from the Caribbean and becoming a teacher in the UK, I don't think it's something that is, it's not a very easy thing, but if you manage to do it, it means that, okay, you have paid your price, no? Because every good thing in life has its own price, as it were.
Well, right. I guess maybe pay the price is an expression, but it's always an opportunity to learn. I enjoyed working with the students I worked with at the time. I started out in support. Even though I came over fully qualified as a guidance counselor, I started out as a support teacher. And that was beneficial for me because it helped me to understand how the system worked so I could guide my children as they grew up in the system and as they progressed through the system. But yes, doing it time, paying dues, that kind of expression, fine. But I just really like the idea that every situation in which you find yourself is just a great learning opportunity to develop and to direct you closer to your ideal self, closer to who you are really designed to be when you were placed on this planet, and just evolving and actualizing to be your best you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. That is the best you. That is that. And of course, as a teacher, from being a school teacher to being a coach, I don't think that is really such a big difference as it were at the end of the day, because you're still a teacher even as a coach. So that is where we are moving into just now. Maybe we are going to come back again to teaching and all that, but let's just flow with it. So tell us about your coaching business.
So it's funny, life has a way of taking you right back around to what you're meant to do. I remember when I was in high school, I was exploring what it is that I wanted to do. But even before high school, I was sharing with someone this week, when I was in grade 5 in primary school, our teacher said to us, when you get back from lunch, I want you to share with the class what it is you want to do when you grow up. And so she went around the class one by one. We had to stand up, say what we wanted to do. And when it was my turn, I said, I want to help people solve their problems. And she said to me, I didn't expect you to say anything differently. She was actually, in tandem. She says, it's all over you. It's written all over you. And I really feel drawn to be a problem solver. with certain kinds of things. It's probably just the way I see things. It's the way my brain processes things, but solutions tend to come. So that's where it started. When I got to the tail end of high school, I thought I'm going to do that by becoming a probation officer. So I went off to the police station, got information about how do I become a probation officer, all the things that would be involved. And I interviewed two police officers who were probation officers, and they told me about the job role. I was excited. So I applied for university, and they said at that time, you had to be a teacher for 5 years or be 25 years or older to be considered for being a probation officer, because it is something that required the law, being a part of the law and law enforcement. You had to be mature and responsible, the kinds of things you would be exposed to. The requirement, 25 years or older, or 5 years teaching experience. So then that's how I ended up in teaching initially. Loved teaching because I was absolutely in love with my high school English teacher. She was fantastic. So I went into a teacher's college and I did English just like my English teacher. I really loved it. I enjoyed that time. But along the way, the rules changed. You didn't have to be a teacher teaching for 5 years anymore. And by the time I got around to applying again, I started a family, had children, didn't go back into probation or social work, which it would lead me to. But because I was having children, I thought, okay, I applied and I got through, but they said, because your family is young, we would recommend you spend another year or two with your very young babies before getting into probation and social work. So I had to defer that again. And in that time, I thought I will keep myself busy. So I loved counseling. I love problem solving, and guidance and counseling is one of those ways you had the opportunity to help families, help students, help others to solve issues and just progress to be their best selves, right? So I did my undergrad in guidance and counseling, and then I started working as a guidance counselor. Loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it so much, really loved it. And then at that point, after practicing for about 2 to 3 years, my husband decided he wanted to move to the UK. So we came to the UK, and then I got back into education. And from there, I did a number of different roles that used up my counseling skills as well as as teaching. So I worked as a mentor, I worked as a student support advisor, and I just kept accessing roles that made use of my counseling skills. Then I volunteered as a children's counselor. Loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. Really loved it. It was something that just really pulled at my heart. And I started going into things like working with charities. So I worked with like Women's Aid and supported families who were fleeing domestic violence and domestic abuse, offered in the community programs for the children who probably were experiencing these kinds of things in their homes, and giving them coping strategies, and things like that. And the experience here for me in England has been a phenomenal one. I've loved every leg of my journey here, every leg of my journey, whether that's been in school or not. And then from there, I started traveling the world again, and went back into education, went back into certain other things, teaching English as an additional language to speakers of other languages, whether that was speaking Arabic, Chinese, whatever. I started traveling again. And then I came back to the UK, and it was time to figure out, what will I get up to now that I'm here? And there was a pull inside me to go back to the original thing, helping people solve their problems. And that is how I worked my way back into coaching. So when I thought, okay, let's get some training going, I trained as a transformational coach. And what that means is I work with people to solve whatever their issues might be. I'll tell you about the type of people in my niche area, but I do work with people with any issues to assess the mindset around the issues that seem to be to be obstacles, things that are stopping them from moving from point A to point B. I work with them to close the gap so that they can actually achieve what they would like within a season of their life. It is not a one-off type session. We work through a number of sessions until they get to meeting the goals and the objectives they have in mind.
I'm talking of the objective and the goal they have in mind. One of the problems a lot of people have these days is that they don't even know the goal and the objective they have. Now, when you meet those kind of people and say maybe you really want to help them, where do you start from?
Super. It's a great question. That's a good one, Obehi. It is true that some people are, clueless, but this is what is great. People are at a level where they know. People who access coaching, they know something is off. They know they're not feeling fulfilled. They know they're not feeling completely satisfied. So within my toolkit, and every coach will have their own set of tools. Within my toolkit, I have different strategies that I can pull on that will help them to, if they can't identify, help them to identify aspects of their lives and how things are going. So we evaluate the finances, we look at relationships, we look at work setting and career, we look at physical environment where you live, where they're located. We look at all aspects of the life, spiritual well-being, emotional well-being, health. We cover all of those, and they can, for example, rate themselves on a scale. That's one of the basic tools of helping someone to identify what area, what aspect of my life would I like to work on? What is there about this particular part I'm not satisfied with at this stage of my growth and development and position in life? And then that's when we can help them. I help them to set the goals. That's just a basic beginning. When you begin to work towards something, there is so much resistance that can surface because your brain, your mind has become comfortable with functioning in a particular way. And whenever you begin introducing something new, resistance comes in. And at that point, that's when the magic work begins. Identifying those things that can be obstacles, identifying those things, not just can be, that are obstacles. We all have blind spots and we can't see them. But when you've got a trained coach, they help to capture whether these be limiting beliefs. Often they are limiting beliefs, things that people don't even realize they believe about themselves. It might center around, I'm not good enough, I'm not confident enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not worthy. That's such a big one. I'm not worthy enough. Who am I to have a voice? Who am I to have something to say to the world or to share? People may feel they're not worthy enough. And it's funny because, if it shows up in your finances where you think, I'm not worthy to be earning 100,000 euros per year or per whatever, it shows up in every area of your life. I'm not worthy of the best spouse. I'm not worthy of this kind of work environment. I'm not worthy. And it's about capturing that and working through where does it show up in all areas of your life, going through the activities and processes that will shift that for you, going into the nervous system and fixing those aspects that will create resistance that may stop you from working towards this, and then designing a blueprint, a plan that takes that individual exactly to that goal. And Obehi, when they get there, it is one of the most exhilarating experiences. They're absolutely hitting that place called fulfilled and contentment.
Today, of course, a lot of people are living in bubbles, this is what is happening. They're living like fashion, like trend. But all these things are not really real. They're just bubble. That is what they are, no? How easy do you think it is to help people to find something of their own that they can work to build every day? How easy it is?
Beautiful question. Absolutely love that question. Part of my toolkit is work that I do centered around identity, answering that pertinent question: who am I? Once individuals connect with who am I, why am I here, just answering those two questions, that is where the gem and the gold comes from in terms of helping an individual to find, pursue, and fulfill their calling, or what we call these days their purpose. I believe, and I think we all could attest to this, there is something inside us that pulls us towards particular interests. Now, like you've mentioned, things like Facebook, the media, theatrical, present kind of things like movies and so on, can detract and, delay that focus that should be on the who am I and why am I here? Yes? And just become that huge distraction that takes people away from that inner understanding of self. This is why I love coaching. For me, coaching is about the inner game. Who are you innately? Who are you if you're not bothered about the likes? Who are you if you are not influenced by certain kinds of movie stars, celebrities? Who are you at the core of your being? And my identity work that I do explores that. And I find after people have a clear understanding of who they are, you said before that people live on in you because you carry their experience. In coaching, we look at the message. My message will be a part of many people who I come in contact with. They will hear the kinds of things that I promote, the kinds of things that I believe. For example, one of the things that I believe is that when you have a firm identity, a secure identity, a strong personal identity, when you know who you are, you achieve great things. People who know me and buy into my belief, where that one belief, will carry that on in themselves. And that's something I love because of the generational impact and even beyond. First generation, second generation, fourth generation. We read the Bible. I read the Bible. And there's a part that talks about the characteristics and the traits of individuals that move on to the third and fourth generation. And even whether that's positive or negative, it is handed down the generations. I love the change that happens for people when they do identity work, because it filters down the generations, the clarity of who we are as individuals and what we're here to accomplish. So you asked me, how can we help people? One of the techniques, one of the areas that I focus on is this idea of understanding who you are. And from there, Obehi, a vision can be crafted out. From that place, your values are identified. From that place, the secure, innate being of who you are is embraced. And there is something in that innate being, the part of you that nobody sees, the part of you that, you can be talking to yourself in your head and we don't hear. There's a part of that is set free to guide you as to where it is you're supposed to be going next, what it is you're meant to be doing, and how you gradually get there. But if that voice is clouded out by social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and I'm not saying that these platforms and these media are not important, they are. But when you've got an understanding of who you are, that's when you use these platforms to your advantage, to get your message out and to help to reach the world, heal the world, help the world. We are all here to help each other, believe it or not.
That is really true. That is the central message at the end of the day, that we are here for each other. And I think Muhammad Ali once said that The service to other is the rent we pay in our room on earth, which means that we are temporarily here. We should understand that that is the truth. And it comes back to the service again. You must render service to other people. And that is very important. Now, before I move to the toolkit, because you made mention of toolkits that you use, because I find it very important. That might drag us to our culture. I don't know, but I'll come to that in the next question. Now, I'm trying to even understand, how did we even get to where we are today? Because I want to believe that maybe in the past, people used to be more focused or not. I don't know, but I'm just thinking whether it is, whether the kind of world that we live in today make it easier for people to be disoriented, to be detached from themselves. Because from your explanation, somebody that is paying attention will understand that this journey that we're talking about is not actually the journey of look outside for the solution. No, it is look inside for the solution. The solution is inside. Therefore, the journey is inside. You are going to go inside. And that might appear to be very simple, but it is more difficult because if you want to pay a trip from maybe Berlin to Frankfurt or to Paris, you just pay a flight ticket and they take you there. That is easier than you taking a trip inside yourself. That is why I think Les Brown was saying that sometimes we do need help to even travel within ourselves.
It is
So
not.
the question really is it a question of the time we are living in that is responsible for this, or we are just like this as human beings? How do we get to this point that we are almost lost?
Wow. When we were, we can see where things changed as we go through history. The more we became a global village was the more people became, I'm going to use your expression, a little bit lost, or probably a tad bit lost, a lot lost in some cases. But it is this issue of the world becoming such a smaller place and everyone being aware of everyone else and what is happening here and there. We were no longer villages. We no longer were villages where we just in charge of a small group and we were working at expanding and developing and growing. I can pick my phone up and I know what is happening anywhere in the world. And so that kind of influence keeps the mind. Remember, our answers for everything really lie in our mind, that inner game. And like you say, Les Brown says we need help. And I agree with him. I love Les Brown. He's one of the motivational speakers that I listen to when I have the opportunity. But that is the case. How did we get here is your question. It is just a process of development and globalization and world wars and all these things that have factored into who we are. It's complex. We can't just say it's this one thing or it's that one thing. As human beings, we are evolving and mind is working. But mind can be influenced by other minds. These days we hear a lot about masterminds. One mind probably mastering over another. Or mastermind in the sense of my mind has this solution to this kind of issue. And if you buy into mine, then you can have X or Y, just like me. But you're quite right. We really need to go inside to our own minds. Understand what is going on, what should be there, who we are, yes, and bring that to the table, bring that to the fore. So it's too complex. It is a lot of things, slavery, wars, globalization, development in technology. It is a lot of things, but some of them have been mismanaged, some of them have been abused. And so instead of us using these things to advance who we are, some of these things are kind of using the populace, using us. So it is complex. And that is why I love coaching, because on a one-to-one basis, there isn't the economics behind one-to-one these days so much. Yes, but that's what I love. Why? When you're in that professional conversation, it's you and the coach who is working with you to get to where you want to go, to unpick the stuff that are just clouding down and covering over who you are, to unpick those things so you can find yourself again in relation to, and I'm not saying people are completely and totally lost, but it might be find myself and who I am in relation to my finances and how I should be following this. Find myself again, who I am in relation to my relationships. I'm not in a good relationship with coworkers, with family members. Who am I and why is that not working? It goes back to going back to the inner being and rectifying things there. So how did we get here? Tons of complex reasons, tons. But I believe in the process of what I do. I believe in transformation. There is a text in the Bible in Romans chapter 12, 1 and 2, and it says, be not conformed to the world. Don't just buy into everything that is happening around you in the world, in technology, in this sector and that sector, but be transformed. How? By renewing your mind. The Bible gives us the answer. Renew your mind. Keep checking in with yourself. Keep checking to see, what's going on with you. Renew your mind. And that is one of the key things, the answer to how do we fix where we've gotten to.
Talking of the kit that you use, the tools that you use. I remember throughout last year, 2020, we pay attention to the question of self-improvement in a particular way, life purpose. So in one of my podcasts, then I was doing solo podcast actually, I was looking into the idea of that when we talk of soft skills, that these things are not really new. They are already embedded in our various culture. It was enough for us to understand how our cultures are set up so that we can know how to even work with a highly technological world that we have today. A good example would be, maybe we are talking of communication, talking of focus, because these are some of the things that are missing in our ability today. Because now you go to secondary school, to university, you still don't know these things very well until you need somebody that can really sit you down and help you to focus on something important. Because most of the people you are working with, they are graduates, I want to believe, no? But some of these soft skills, they are not taught in school. You need to learn them maybe outside or maybe in a different school program, because our school are not based on this time. They are based on the post-industrial revolution. And I don't even know if there is any country in the world that have revolutionized their educational system. In the United States, a lot of people are complaining of the educational system. In Africa, it's even worse. In that we are pumping out children from school who we are not giving the instrument to find themselves in the world. So what is the question they ask? I have finished school. Where can I find work? Because if we were talking of the 1960s, that was a good question to ask. And that was a good response because the system had provided work for you. You were trained like a kind of a mini slave, a kind of a semi-machine to respond to the yearnings of the industrialized system. But now that system has changed. You are going to feed for yourself. You are going to be the master of yourself. But the school has not changed. So people, they are lacking the instrument to be able to be their own boss. They are not being given the instrument yet. But I say again, if we go back to our culture, take a look at the regular play that we have. Let me give you an instance. As little kids growing up in Nigeria, in my part of Nigeria, which is Uromi, when we were small, we used to go and hunt little birds, no? Because I want to lay emphasis on the question of focus. I can use the same to explain communication, objective, no? Because now we don't have, many of us don't have objective. We are just running around. This is what is the trend, we just follow it. Now, as little kids going around in the village hunting for birds, a little bird, very small, is sitting on top of a mountain, on top of a tree, a very tall tree. Now, this little child is going to bring that bird down and take it home and be happy. Now, the question is, how does he do it? By practicing. How do you manage to a small catapult in front of just with you that you are prepared? Nobody prepared it for you. You just take some tube, put it together, and you aimed. You really aim at a bird far away from you, and you could kill this bird and take it home. What about the play that we do, the kind of joke that we play? Why I'm saying this is that we are lost because we don't want to connect to our root. Because our root, that is a source, all the information we need to survive in this world has been given to us. But we are just in the bubble trying to imitate what we are not. That is why we are lost. So coming back to the tools, what do you use to help these people understand? Because if we talk about philosophy, it becomes difficult because not all of us are philosophers. But there are very simple examples that we can really look into and understand what we are talking about here. Please help us there.
Okay, so wow, you've said so much. You're just lighting me up. I like that question. But I'm going to speak to one particular tool that I use. And this tool I tend to go to after I've done identity work with an individual. So when they get to the stage of understanding who they are and mapping out from there their value system, I then take them into what is called life purpose. Why am I here? What am I meant to do? Yes. And in that life purpose work, which can take up to even 12 sessions, depending on who people are and how quickly they, go through the process and how real. In coaching, Obehi, you've got to be real with yourself. There's no way you're going to hide stuff. So we contract those kinds of things at the beginning so people understand they're safe to be. It's a non-judgmental environment where you can be open and naked. You can be really genuinely yourself. Okay. And from that place, we begin to understand. Now that I know who I am, we're going to answer, why am I here? What am I here to accomplish? In a lot of what you said, we recognize this whole influence of, for example, the industrial age. School systems were structured in different ways. And at the end of that, there was a job to be passed on. But now we are in a different age. We're in the technological age. We're in the age that requires soft skills. We're in the age that requires technological related skills. The two sets are important. And we're in the age where maybe no one is going to be offering you a job per se. You're now going to be the individual to create that job. Just like you're saying, Obehi, what skills did that individual use to identify that bird, work out a strategy to get that bird down, and take that bird home? Something that they figured out and processed. My toolkit that focuses on life purpose takes the individual through understanding their interests. I'm going to put in basic terms, but understanding their interests. What are their hearts pulled towards? When do they feel most alive and vibrant? Because those emotions, and we are complex beings, just like our societies are evolving to be complex structures. But one of the things that help to give us information is our emotions. So for example, within my toolkit, there are certain places we go in the emotions to see what really brings you alive. When we identify a number of different things, then we go into deeper work to explore those things. What are, for example, the messages that come out from you in those times when you are most alive? Who are the people you feel most connected to in those times? What activities are there that really drive you in those times? And when we pool all of those together, the individual gets to a place where they design a business, where they design a product, where they design themselves, if they are the product, in a sense, design something they can offer. So that is covered, for example, in my life purpose toolkit. When I do that with people, they walk away crying. They weep because they get an opportunity to see what they were leaving on the table all this time. One of the questions you might ask somebody, if you were to meet your ideal self, Obehi, your perfect, well-fulfilled self, compared to, for example, where you are now, and you were able to see what things you didn't access, what things you didn't take, what things you didn't develop in yourself, you're able to see what you left on the table, how would you feel? So it's that process, it's a journey of taking people towards understanding my purpose. And from there, it is endless what an individual wants to create. This takes us back to the mind. The mind and the power it has to create is endless. It is the feature of the God who made us. He said, let us make man in our image. If you look at the plants outside, the flowers that grows around, none of them are necessarily the same. Different colors, different shapes, different ways they grow. Some creep up along big trees. Some stand out on their own. It is endless how nature creates. We've got the same capacity. So when we understand purpose and understand all the elements around that, we don't have to be producing people who want to still function in the way that the industrial age worked, where you do this, and this, and then there's that job awaiting you. It wakes people up to this place where they begin to realize there is something inside me that is bursting to come out, my ideal self, my best self. And if I tap into that and learn how to tap into that, I can be a creator. We are all creators, believe it or not. It lies inside us, the things that we can create. Now, I want to say this because it came to my mind when you phrased your question and how you set the question up before you asked it about soft skills. And one of the things we should never underestimate is the power of mentoring. Yes, you may have young people who the education system focused in a particular direction, and they've come in and they don't have the soft skills that you think, that not just we think, that is needed. Here is where there is the opportunity to be the village again, to set up a system and a structure that mentors young people as they come in. Will that be easy? Absolutely not, because they're used to their technology and used to this and used to that. But we can be creative in how we structure those things. And, curriculums vary across the world. I've been lucky to travel to other countries and to work in education. And the curriculum is different all over. There are curriculum that focus completely on children having 100% autonomy and agency in their learning experience. They decide what they want to learn, when they want to learn it, how they want to learn it, how they want to demonstrate that they've learned it. And so all the soft skills, communication, cooperation, teamwork, all of that is built in to the learning journey and the learning experience. So maybe there are some, opportunities for the education system to be shifted to reflect other systems. But for example, when I worked in international schools, that is how the curriculum is structured. And you find that those kinds of children, while they might be children of diplomats and other officials like that, the exposure to the kind of curriculum is different because it does cover opportunities to naturally gain the soft skills, naturally become a negotiator, naturally become a great communicator, naturally become somebody who knows how to not just communicate, but knows how to work cooperatively with others, understanding personalities. What is this person like? What is that one like? Who would be best in this role? Who should not be invited into this space, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just about, exploring what is there, what's not working, and education-wise addressing that as well.
It's good that you concluded that those the kind of system is available only to the privileged few. Yes, of course, they really do exist, yeah. But we are looking at actually the general education for the people, because it is true. If a society is well organized, the educational system were to help you become yourself, not become something else, no? But of course, that in itself can even be very difficult to explain. In that, what do you even mean becoming yourself? But anyway, I'm not going to take that further than that, because you might need some time to explain it. But going back to the thinking, which is the using of the mind, I think it's very important, because even in the book by James Allen, As a Man Thinketh, So He Is, I think there is a lot of value in materials like that, no? In that, even before now, people have been realizing this, the time that we are living in. It's a huge opportunity to be alive this time. I think it's a good thing to be alive today, because many people didn't have the chance to have access to what we are having access to today. So saying that this time, the world we are living in today is what makes us this way, is not in itself really a negative thing to stand by. Because, for example, you were saying just now that you could pick up your telephone and know exactly what is happening in any part of the world. And that is true. You are in UK, I am in Italy. Okay, we are both in Europe, they are very close. But in this podcast, I do exactly the same thing that I'm doing with you, with people from Canada, US, Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana. Any part of the world that I connect with my audience is exactly the same. I am talking in the next seconds, fraction of second, the person is hearing me. This is a power that is available to everybody today. But the question is, what do you do with it? Because again, remember, this power is neutral. It is not good or bad. It is not European or Africa. It is not Asia or Middle Eastern. It is just power. It is for everybody. Because somebody might now say, well, you see, maybe you are in Europe, that is why you have that power. No, it is not true.
No.
If you are somewhere in the Middle East, you still have access to the power as long as you are connected to the grid. Yeah. If you are in Lagos, because I do interview a lot of people from Lagos, and it's the same. There are some coaches in Lagos too. Of course, it is new because it's not something that we are used to. But the educational system is different now. Actually, no, I mean, the society is different now. So the way we educate ourselves should also be different. So what I'm really like going from here is the marketing of this individual who then become the product. Because I think you refer to that in a sense, no? That sometimes you can also actually become the product. You are selling yourself. But do you know how? So this marketing, this self-marketing, which of course has to begin by able to realize that you have value, you are capable. Because after you have trained yourself, then you need to prove to others, hey, I can do this for you. This marketing aspect of it, how do you go about it? How do you manage to get your client and then maybe sell the same idea to your students so that by the time they finish from you, they should be able to propose to any person and say, yes, I can do this with you?
Okay, so if I understand what your question is, you're saying all the technology, for example, that we have at our fingertips today is available to everyone. What is not available to everyone, Obehi, is the understanding of the voice. You have found your voice and you're using technology to get your message across. What I gather from what you're offering to society is a display of all the achievements, brilliant things that are happening with people, whether people of color or people who have just achieved stuff. You interview all different kinds of people, you share those across the diaspora. And so those who do tune in have different voices that may influence, ignite, trigger something inside them to want more, to want to be more of who they genuinely are. So yes, there is a side of the availability, but there is a side of, do I have my voice? Have I activated my voice? Do I believe in myself? Do I think I am worthy? There is a program that I became aware of recently that is called #I'm Remarkable. And when I participated in that, I met a lot of women who felt absolutely terrified of being able to say what it is that they are remarkable at. When they were actually brought to the point of just quickly, in say 2 minutes, write all the things you're remarkable, they sat and they thought and they pondered, and these are accomplished individuals, but they're not in a society that promotes you promoting yourself. It is probably regarded as being a little bit cocky, being a little bit of a show off, and so on. But we're finding in the job market that there are skilled people, but they're not necessarily getting the promotion. They're not necessarily getting the jobs because they're not self-promoting, because they have not unlocked their voice. And even though they're doing incredible work, even though they are making significant achievements, it is hardly being publicized in ways that benefit them, benefit other women, benefit their families, and so on. So yes, these things are available, technology, etc. Yes, the ideas are there, but have people unlock their voice? And it will bring me back to what I'm saying. Coaching is one of those opportunities to find your voice. So now I know my identity. Now I know my purpose. How do I activate my voice and get this done? What are the different tasks? Not everyone will be, for example, on social media. Not everyone will be in the public's eye, but you can influence in different ways. Are you going to do that as a writer? That's a possibility. Find your voice as a writer. You influence as a writer. Are you going to do that as an early years educator, or what we call here, for example, in the UK, a childminder, where you take care of people's children while they are off at work, but the program that you offer are positively influencing children's minds, because that is what you enjoy doing. Children between, say, birth and 3 years old or whatever. People have unique ways of connecting, even with the smallest of the small, 0 to 3 years old. The idea is understanding self, figuring out what you're here to do, unlock your voice, and become the influencer that you're here for. Let me explain this. We are here, as I said before, to help each other. I can't treat a medical condition that I may have without the help of either a naturopath or a doctor. So I'm either going to go the route of the regular system, synthetic medication, for example, or I might choose to go the route of naturopathy and use nature, things within nature, herbs and things of the soil and so on. But I can't address my medical issue if I don't have that training, for example. So I need the doctor, okay? Or I need the naturopath. I need the teacher. I need the preacher. I need all these different people within society to impact and influence my life in a positive way somehow. Some of these things, many people are no longer exposed to. And some of what they're exposed to might not necessarily be things to unlock their voice because of how it is presented. You know, you said, as a man thinks, so is he. We might be in a system that is downplaying thinking, because you change when you think and then act. Transformation comes through thinking and then taking action. You gain insight and then you move into action. No action, no transformation. So yes, we have all these things at our fingertips and we can design all these different things, but until you unlock your voice and begin to learn to use that as an influencer, whether you will write, whether you will blog, whether you will vlog, whether you will do a podcast, whether you will have something you present in on social media, TV, Instagram, you need to know who you are, understand your message, and then go into unlocking your voice and taking action.
The people that you are concentrating on, your demography and the niche, if you want to call it like that. So who really are your audience precisely?
Yeah. So I work with high achievers who have what I call invisible roadblocks. There are some minds among us that are extremely creative, philosophical, visionary, high achievers. But it's like they're going round in circles. and they're not really achieving the things that they can. It comes back to one of the things you mentioned, focus. For some, there's just so much going on in the mind. Their minds are so busy, so active, so creative, but they lack structure. So these things do not come to the table. They don't come to fruition because the structure might not be there. Procrastination might be taking over. Distractions become a big issue for them. Lack of skills or knowledge. How could I source funding for something I want to do? Different things like that. So my coaching brings solutions to high achievers who have invisible roadblocks and things like those invisible roadblocks, procrastination, lack of focus, things like those. Excuse me. So they have those issues, and I work with them to identify the blocks that are there for them, the invisible blocks, and then work through attacking those so all the creativity inside them can come to the fore. Because I've also worked in refuges, working with women and children who have been negatively impacted by domestic violence and by emotional abuse and manipulation, I work with that demographic as well. So I find that I do have clients who come in because they also have invisible blocks. These invisible blocks come into play because of the domestic violence that they probably experienced as children, or experienced in the home as a wife or as a husband or spouse of whatever gender. Okay. And so there are these beliefs, especially those around lack of worth. When you are in an environment, in a context, when there is that constant repeated message, whether it is through direct words or whether it is through behavior and actions that dumb someone, down and push them down, people can start having beliefs of lack of worth and lack of value and lack of confidence, etc. So individuals who have experienced emotional, that's a side I'm on more than physical abuse. Those who have experienced like emotional abuse, psychological manipulation, and it has wired certain thinking inside them. Many of these people basically freeze. They're going through life frozen. Yes, they're going to the supermarket and doing their shopping. Yes, they're having that conversation with someone if they get the chance outside. Yes, they're in high-flown positions. They are teachers, they are wives of politicians, they are husbands to some high-powered Nigerian bank woman, a bank manager. I'm just being cheeky now. But it's on both sides, it knows no gender, the psychological and mental abuse and manipulation. These individuals need to unwind from that. And that's a side of my work that I like as well. The neuroscience of understanding, how do I go into the nervous system, undo the messaging in the nervous system that has been wired into it. I'm so happy you brought up the book As a Man Thinketh, because the mind is malleable. It can take in these hidden messages. Yes, take in these hidden messages and begin to shape an individual. So it's beautiful when they go through the identity work and the purpose work, and they get to this place where they understand self better, so that, they can unwind, put it that way, in their psyche, in their psychological well-being, in their nervous system, and create a transformed identity, vision, understanding of who they are, and then rebuild their lives from that place.
Oh,
my audience,
that's great.
high achievers, and those who may have experienced emotional and psychological manipulation. Both of them will tend to have invisible blocks that are similar in some way, and then we can work through coaching to get them to a more productive place.
Now, you are working as a psychology at that point, though, because you are trying to dig into the mind of the people and then have a key to unlock some things inside. Of course, with their permission, or sometimes without their permission. Because I look at the work of psychology at this point like a password, no? somebody can share the password with you, and you can have the password, maybe the other person is really giving it to you. But at the end of the day, you are going to enter inside and be able to unlock some key. I think that is the work the psychologists usually do, in that you go to a typical psychology. This time I will also refer back to African culture, in that perhaps we don't understand that even in African culture, psychology is something that is deeply rooted in our day-to-day life, even though we don't say it. I explain. Now, when you maybe sleep, you don't understand the dream that you have, you will go to tell somebody who might say, okay, the soothsayer or a witch doctor. Let's use the European version this time, no? Even though you're actually going to see a psychologist, that is what the role of the psychology. But what will the person do? He will begin to ask you some questions. Okay, but yesterday, what did you do? In your family, who are the people there? Are you in a good term with the people? Are you in a good relationship? This and that. What do you eat? And by the time this person have done the treatment with you, we can maybe take a short time or a long time, depending on how it is. The person will be able to prescribe something correct to you on what to do. And when you do this, you can then regain yourself. And this can be something from mental numbers to maybe lack of focus, or anything that has to do with maybe knowing your focus, knowing your basis in life. I'm saying that for you to be able to do this, you need the collaboration of the individual. Okay, now back to Europe. Say maybe a woman have suffered violation, be abused or something. Or let me give you some instance. In the immigrant situation, the refugee situation, some women that have been abused, even some men too, maybe in Libya before they cross over to Europe. Now that they are in the process, in the asylum seeking home, they have to pass through some psychological reconstruction, because a lot of things have gone wrong. Before you now get this person to talk to you, you need to be able to talk to them in a way that they can open up to you, because these are very deep things inside them. They don't just go around and start sharing it, no? I've had to deal with some lawyers here, because I do translation for these refugees. So I was saying, why do they give the negative all the time? They will say, okay, because the story doesn't make sense. But that the story doesn't make sense, even that we need to understand it, makes sense according to what? Because this person is coming from a culture, from an understanding, is enters into a culture, and it tells you a story, maybe according to his own understanding, according to his own culture, according to his own value. Maybe you don't understand his own value. That is why you think it doesn't make sense. Is that why it is? Or you think the person is stupid? So in this case, they will then bring in a cultural mediator who they have to interpret what this person is saying to what you are saying. I'm not just saying the literal interpretation. Somebody speak in Igbo, you need to translate it to Italian. That is not what it means. Also, the significance. What does it mean? So there is a difference now between linguistic and grammatic. Somebody need to interpret what you are saying. What does it insinuate? So I'm actually trying to say that the people that you are working with, they don't just come to you with an open book. This is my secret. Go into it. So how do you work your way in? That is the question.
You're asking me to give you my techniques. And if I give you those, then I won't have any clients. They won't need to come to me. They'll just watch this video and get on with it, huh? You're absolutely right. I think you're even hitting on a deeper issue, because, for example, you're looking at asylum seekers or people from different cultures. Yes, sometimes when they express what they feel, think, have to say, it may not make necessarily that much sense to our own minds because it is not our cultural experience. However, because they are integrating into a new societal structure, then you try to make sense of what they're saying and give guidance as to where it is they will need to go, what things they might need to adopt, factor in to be able to function in the new society wherever they go, wherever that is. Okay? But you're saying people won't just come. Listen, the people who will access things like counseling, therapy, coaching, are people who are at a certain level of awareness that they are not content with where they are in life. They might not be able to tell you exactly. Some people know. Some people know that, hey, my finances are off and I just simply want to earn more money. How do I do that? That comes to coaching. That's fine. Somebody comes and says, I want to improve on my finances. Okay, let's explore the finances. And so you're going to go into a series of questions and conversations. Sometimes it's not about what they're doing. It's about what they're believing. They grew up in a family, for example, where they got a lot of no's. Mommy, can I have this? No, we don't have money for that. Oh, can I do so and so with my friends? No. Where must money come from for that? Oh, I wanted this. No, I can't afford it now. What a lot. It's deep, Obehi, it's deep. But just using that example alone, that individual has grown up to think money is not something that I will be able to access and own, do much with, because there's so much no's that they've received. The coaching process has to take that person back to those no's and reframe, restructure, redevelop, reinvent, recreate those no's into that mental frame that believes now it can access that yes. And that's work. It is specific, unique, or organic to each individual, will come across differently. The most I can say is there are tools in the kit to work with anyone who comes. And if they can't open up, we have different strategies. For example, simple strategy. Sometimes you might just even overlook. Role play. Sometimes people come and there are issues to deal with. They themselves have a block. We say, okay, we'll do a role play. Let's get into it. Another simple thing, a little game. True or false? Simple. This issue that you have raised, okay, it works like this. Is that true? That's true. That's true. What's false? And then you work from there for a person to gain awareness that, oh, I've been believing this. I've been believing this, but it's false. I've been believing this, but it's false. And they get to that eureka moment through a simple game like true false, but designed and crafted through the coaching process in such a way it makes this person open up even more. Who's not going to just get into a game of true and false? And you make it fun, but then you bring in their issue. You just bring in their issue at the right and appropriate time, phrased and crafted in a question that makes them get to that, oh, this is not true about me. Sometimes you might find that people split, not in the full psychological sense, but they realize I have a side of me at 12 years old who had this belief and has carried that belief to the point where I am at 26 years old. And then it means I have to go into different techniques to get the 26-year-old and the 12-year-old to make some reconciliation about what's true, what's not, where they are, and how they move progressively together from there. And then we have to explore techniques for when the 12-year-old belief side comes back up with, but this is who we're supposed to be. And the 26-year-old just have to learn how to then speak with that 12-year-old belief, calm it again, take it out of action, and let it stop driving their life and put the new belief into the driving seat to carry on until that belief gradually yields, and the new belief gets in place. What you're asking me for, I can't answer at this point because it is such an intricate dance. When you're coaching, it's an intricate dance. You find ways to help them to open up. When they open up, they're giving you information. You're working with that. We're dancing in the moment. And let me say this here. Coaches do not give advice. I do not give advice. I work with you to help you to transform your life and choose the things as you go along, what's important for you. I spot the blind spots as you are working with me, and I craft questions to bring enlightenment that will help you to probably see those things. If some people are stuck because they've not practiced to communicate, they've not practiced to express themselves, they don't have their voice, then it is my job as coach to go into my toolkit and find whatever creative strategy. 2 of them I mentioned, role play, true false, games like that, for example. And I don't want to trivialize it and make the audience think or make you think, oh, it's just a game. It really is deep. But you've got to be specific. You've got to be creative and intentional. And that's why I've said intentional about how you help. And that is why I've said it's not a process that's going to happen in 1 session, 2 sessions. You can have 1 or 2 sessions and get enlightenment and get enough to run with. I actually offer people a free 1.5 hour session, no obligation. If you want to continue coaching after that, you are free. You're welcome. I'll show you where to go. But in that 1.5 hour, I coach at my best. It doesn't matter if you're going to take on coaching with me or not. I'm giving that value because we're here to help each other. And people can have breakthrough in that 1.5 hour. They can gain strategies as to where they want to go next with their lives. I love the process. I really do. I love coaching. And it changes them, yes? But then there will always be other things that may prop up, and they'll probably come back sometime after to say, I've had great success in this. Really want to thank you for that. But now I'm stuck in this area. And then we can go back through a process that will address whatever those little areas are. Yes? So they won't open up. Don't worry. I've got tools for you. I'm not going to give them away in this space, but I've got tools. Yes.
Right.
Listen, it's loving people and connecting with people. And that's what it is for me. Once you sit in front of me and we're working together, I love you. I love you. I'm giving you the best. I've made sure to go through the nth of training. I love training. I'm always training. I'm always in a little program here, program there, or doing a bigger scale program, because you've got to keep with the times. You've got to understand in this age of technology, there are different kinds of issues obstacles you got to break down and help people to see so that they can make the changes. So you've got to keep on top of things all the time. So you develop strategies as you go along through the years because people are different. People fall in certain type of personality categories, but people at the same time are different. So it's an organic process where you work with people the way they are. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. I think it's powerful. Just looking at the way you structure it now, and imagine how powerful it is when it's going to be even live, when you are working with your.
It's powerful. It's powerful. People leave the process. It's tears of joy. They leave the process with tears of joy because they uncover and they discover things about themselves they didn't realize, but it really is inside them. And they're really, they just need to become aware. And once they become aware, awareness is one of the places inside yourself. When you get to awareness, from that place, you can build any empire you want. You can be the ruler of your own universe and beyond if you want. Once you become aware, that's foundation to build on.
Thanks, Annecha. Now, is there a possibility that we can bring in the cultural angle to this coaching thing, this dealing with people? But okay, let's look at it this way. The coaches are the director. They help you they direct you to your roots, no? They don't necessarily just break your head and plant in something else, no? They help you to find yourself again. All right. Now, this process, is it possible that we could apply some cultural thing? Maybe, for example, you are dealing with somebody that is coming from Nigeria. You can apply the Nigerian cultural value into the experiences that the person is going through in a way that the person can better understand it, as against somebody coming from Russia or China. who have a different kind of culture. Because culture, of course, is a way of life, the way that we have conditioned our thinking process. Now, for you to break that thinking process, but the people break it all the time. On the psychology do that. People who are expert execs in the business world, people who do international negotiation, they are very good in this. Otherwise, how are you going to be able to negotiate? So I'm trying to see the role of culture in the job that you do. Is there anything you can say about that?
Now, the role of culture. One of the things, for me, culture is important. Inclusion, okay, let me speak to two sides, inclusion and personality, okay? Where do these fit in to include culture? I appreciate that there are cultural differences. Coaches who may function within industrial settings, within organizations that might have teams that they coach, they would focus, and when I'm in that context, the focus would be on the two areas, inclusion and personality. Now, values are part of every individual. Values show up in every culture. If you have a team that is diverse, you're going to be looking at creating inclusive practices within that group context that will allow the team to function optimally and effectively. That will allow the individual, for example, who let's say is from the Middle East, to be able to voice their perspectives, their ideas about different things, even in a British context that has other individuals from someone from Africa, two Europeans a part of that team, someone else from the Caribbean, whatever the mix. It is about being open enough to ensure that the inclusion is covered. But listen to this now, the inclusion within itself allows for diversity, allows for the person's cultural influence. You can have inclusion that looks just as an outer show, meaning we have someone who wears a headscarf, we have someone who is a different complexion, we have someone who is more whatever, a different complexion. We have someone who, and we put these pictures in the media to say, see, we are so diverse and inclusive, but now let's go to inclusion of the mind. How well is an organization structured to receive how someone from the Middle East, someone from Australia, someone from the Americas, someone from the Caribbean, and their thought process about problem solving, their thought process about how we can address something, how much is that being incorporated? Now, my job is to work with the leader in that organization to get them to explore, for example, how do I regard diversity of mind when I'm trying to cultivate inclusion within my workforce? And so that will then take in the cultural practices of different places across the world, and depending on how diverse the team is. So it's inclusion in a special type of way. So for that leader, we might be going through things like what we call a DISC, a personality assessment. And from this personality assessment, it is looking at how dominant are you? How compliant are you? How influential are you? What kind of individual are you in your personality? How does that then play into how you relate to people? How does that play into how you would relate with a team? How does that play into how you show up as a team member? And these kinds of settings require leadership. This is the reason we have governmental leaderships, Organizations have their top managers and their top leaders and their executives and their coordinators and all these top people. Their job it is to pool people together with the understanding of values, with the understanding of differences in personality, with the understanding of differences in cultural context, and being able to creatively weave all of this together to create something where people can feel a sense of belonging, have their voices heard, make their contribution. It can be complex, a lot to cover, but many organizations are taking on the concept of having either coaching available for their teams or having coaching available for their leaders and managers so that they can craft into the organizations the things they want. It takes time. We're evolving. We're getting there in these kinds of thinkings. Some organizations definitely do better than others, but for the most part, we're getting there. We're getting there. And it's the same things. It's people management, coaching, and you can have your one-to-one individual self-management, self-leadership, evolving into being the best leader of self that you can be. And so that's one way within an organization that the issue of culture can be factored in. Looking at inclusion, but not just inclusion of the superficial or outer things, but inclusion of the mind. How do people do things within their culture? And then looking at personality and value systems. How do we incorporate those into what we're doing as an organization?
Thank you very much for that. Now, we're moving towards the end of the podcast, but I certainly want to ask you something relating to, because I know that you do group coaching. If there is anything you would like to
state there. So it depends. It depends, but group coaching for me focuses on individuals who have similar issues. And hold one moment, please.
Yeah, it's okay, no problem. we are recording, so we can cut that part off. Okay, just go.
Okay. So yes, so it really boils down to what is the intention and what is the motive? What is the need for group coaching? Group coaching, from my perspective, focuses on, for example, my program might be for a group of women who have experienced similar challenges. And so we come together in a way where, yes, it is coaching, but it creates the opportunity for them to learn from each other in a structure and in a setting where there is this shared experience, play out in slightly different ways for some, but it is defined in a similar way. And from that encounter, they are being coached, yes, being coached as a group, yes, but have the support of each other, learning from each other, gaining strategies from each other as they go through the process. It allows people to have their voice again. Okay, they have that support. So from that angle, that there's group, but there can be group in, like I said before, organizations, and it just depends on where you are. But my group programs are focused on empowering women.
Personally, you dedicate a lot of time into this activity that you do, no? I didn't ask whether you're still teaching or you're only concentrating on coaching at the moment. All right. In any case, you are dedicating a lot of time to it. With me, you really like it, you love it as a job. Okay, tell me, what moved you on here? Because in everything that we do as human beings, there are some challenges, no? For you to continue despite the challenges, meaning that it's something you really want to do, you are making sacrifices, no? Because you cannot get it here and also get it here. If you are getting one thing, meaning you are losing another thing, there is a trade-off in life, no? Otherwise, we will have everything that we always want. We don't always have everything we want. And that is also what makes life beautiful, no? Because you look at the sacrifice you have made, that gives value to what you have got, you know? Otherwise, I will sleep on my bed, then I will still be rich. I will still be able to do what I have to do. It is not possible. Talking to you now, for some other things, I'm not able to do them. I'm sacrificing that one for this. So what gives you the motivation to continue? And where do you find joy in this thing that you do? That is the question.
Oh, Obehi, it's changing lives, isn't it? Listen, When I transitioned into coaching, I felt a strong pull inside me that this is where you need to be going now. It doesn't matter where in the world I lived, the time was right. I got to a stage where I was thinking about, I wasn't even thinking so much about next steps. Something woke up inside me and pulled me towards this aspect of my calling. When you're a high achiever like myself, you can fit in anywhere because you've got the skill set. You're a quick learner. You can pick up on anything and do it with excellence anywhere. But we're all still born with a particular thing or sets of things that we're designed to do, that we're designed to fulfill in some way. We have the freedom of choice. God is so good in that way. We have the freedom of choice of how we want to. And this is part of the reason, yes, I went into education and I went into mentoring and I went into guidance and counseling, and now I'm gone into coaching, and they have similar aspects to them because I'm here to serve humanity in a way that helps people solve their problems and get to a place of deeper self-knowledge and understanding, unlock their voices, take action for the things that are important to them, and show up in the world to help those they are here to help. What keeps me going? Just the fact that I believe the Father up in heaven who created the universe, the creator of the universe, has woken up in me what he wants me to focus on at this stage of my life. And he has sold me the understanding that this has the power to change people's lives for the better. I've been in education, and if children learn something in a way that is not right, the research shows that it will take you a minimum of 7 attempts of reteaching the new thing before it begins to stick. With coaching, the moment someone comes to that eureka moment, the moment where I told you like, oh, I've been believing this and it's not true. The change is instant. It's instant. Yes, you may have to keep reminding the 16-year-old self that you're not there anymore. It's 26-year-old self that's in charge. However, that change is enough. That eureka moment is enough. The change in lives, the transformation, and the ability for that to influence generation after generation after generation, and knowing that doing what I'm called to do pleases the creator of the universe, that's what keeps me going.
Absolutely
That's
wonderful.
what keeps me going.
All right. Now, how can people connect with you? What would be your final message? That we have come to the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So it is, where can people connect with you? And what would be your final message? Let's go.
Right now, people can find me on LinkedIn. I'm not all over the place. I am on Facebook, but not as much as I am on LinkedIn. So if they Google my name or go to LinkedIn and search for my name, Annecha Smart Fullerton, they will find me there and they can connect from there. Soon my website will be up and they will find me under my business name, Smart Mind Coaching, Smart Minds Coaching. So they'll be able to find me there as well and be able to connect. Yes. And there's a link I can share with you. I don't know how your audience work, but for the next 2 weeks for the festive season, giving away a gift, I'm happy to give away 3 to 5 free 1.5 hour deep coaching sessions. When I say deep, I mean it's going into deep. If you're not prepared for deep work to really evolve to a place where you can shift something in your life for the new year and become a new individual within yourself with new goals, new things to work towards, so that when you look at what the outcome of what that will bring you, it will be phenomenal shift. Don't connect. But if that is the case, then I'm happy to share an email address at this stage where they can connect with me to claim. First 5 to connect can claim those free 1.5 hour deep, let me repeat, deep coaching sessions, something that will transform your life and just giving you a different playing field from which to work come the new year. So that's my offer to your audience.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Yes.
Is that your last statement, or would you like to say anything to conclude the conversation?
Now you need to tell me if I can share the email address here. I don't.
Please go ahead.
Those who would like to access, and it's going to be the first 5. Those who would like to access that, the email address is ELT helper, HELPER, ELT helper 40 at gmail.com. ELT helper 40 at gmail.com. 40 for the 40. What's the last thing I would like to say? Listen, give yourself the opportunity to evolve into becoming the best version of you. You are worth it. You are worth it. And whether that is coaching, whether that is just detaching from probably social media for a while, intervals, finding a mentor, talking with somebody in the community who is older, give yourself the opportunity to uncover who you really, really are so that you can walk more fully into who you are and experience fulfillment and experience deep contentment. It's worth the journey. It really is.
Thank you so much, Annecha. It has been a pleasure on my end. Thank you so much.
It has been my delight. Thank you so much for the invitation.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewanfo. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you in the next episode.